The road of excess. Clean Ed sat in his booth and sipped his coffee. A cigarette burned in the ashtray, its smoke curling slowly up like a prayer. "Slow night tonight, Edward?" the cashier asked sarcastically. Her name was Allie, with an I, not a Y, and she was a fixture on the graveyard shift at the Flapjack House. Once an hour on the hour, she reapplied her lipstick, a lovely, understated shade of electric firehouse red, using the door to the dessert case as her mirror. She'd picked up the nickname the Exterminator years before, when she'd immobilized and permanently damaged a biker who was assaulting a cook named Steve. The reason for the disturbance was never determined, although it was later suspected the biker in question hadn't slept in days, binging on PCP and a crystal meth called Go Fast. Perhaps the biker didn't care for the tone of Steve's voice or appearance. For whatever reason, he saw fit to punch the cook in the face, drag him out of the kitchen by the throat, and throw him into the condiment station. There they wrestled around in the mayonnaise and pickle relish, sliced onion and tomato, destroying the dining room, turning the furniture into kindling. Every time the cook would get the biker on his back, Allie would race in and throw a glass of ice water in the biker's face, really pissing off an already pissed off biker, who would then get the cook rolled over on his back again. "Not helping," Steve managed to gasp as he saw Allie approach with a glass of water. "Well, I have to do something," Allie yelled back. "What should I do?" "Anything but that," yelled the embattled cook. Allie spied a bottle of Black Flag wasp and hornet spray. It was a powerful aerosol designed to shoot out 50 feet. She snapped that bottle up and proceeded to empty it into the startled and angry face of the biker, in his eyes at point-blank range, and his nose and down his throat every time he opened his mouth to scream. He yelled and screamed a lot at first, but by the time Allie was through with him, he was really quite calm. In fact, he was so calm the paramedics thought at first he might be dead. It didn't kill him, but it didn't do him any good either. He was never really the same guy after. He finally got so weird, his club took his patch back, and his old lady, seeking a semblance of normalcy, left him to live with a bearded lady from a circus. Allie didn't care for her nickname. She didn't care for it one bit, or the attending celebrity the incident had caused. Her picture had appeared in the Oregonian, along with a short story about the fight. The reporter had described her as one tough cookie, apparently thinking that was funny. Allie didn't think it was funny, not one bit. "He thinks it's so amusing having to deal with these assholes. You should come try it. See how hard he laughs then." "Tough cookie, my ass. Just trying to run a business here and earn a living, that's all. But between the bikers and the druggies and the drunks and the whores wandering in and out, a fight in here every week, tearing the place apart, scaring away any decent customers, it's like working in a carnival." Since that time, Allie had taken a dim view of Clean Ed Danielson and the strange people who wandered in off of Pal to talk with him. To her, they all appeared to be of a low and suspicious character. Rarely did they order anything more than a cup of coffee as they sat and talked with Ed. She'd seen money exchanged. No one suspected, but Allie had perfected the skill of watching the dining room's reflection on the door to the dessert case while she pretended to redo her lipstick. It had helped build the legend of her having eyes in the back of her head. It wasn't personal. She liked Ed well enough. He was a regular. He didn't call her any nasty nicknames, and he was always polite. Sarcastic sometimes, but polite. And there had been times Ed had played peacemaker when it looked like things were spiraling out of control. At least once a night he'd be parked in his favorite booth, 7 nights a week. Some nights he'd be in and out several times running errands, he claimed. "You need to settle down, Edward," she would tell him at least once a week. "You should get "I know. A good job with the post office. I know, Allie. You've told me all this before. They are well paid and they get all those benefits. Then I should find a nice girl before I'm too old and wrinkled up, get married and have children. buy a house, mow my yard once a week. Allie, I'm too young and far too good looking to settle down now. Besides, I don't want to work for the federal government. I spent 3 years in the Army. No thanks. I've had a belly full of sergeants. I don't want a boss or a wife. I'm really content being self-employed. Slow night tonight, Edward? Allie had asked. For both of us, it seems, Ed replied. You guys didn't have much of a bar rush. The cook wondered if he could go ahead and brick the grill, get that part of his late shift duties done. Any time after 3:45 is fine, Allie said. Ed sat in his booth, sipped his coffee, smoked his cigarettes, waited patiently for business as he read his Oregonian. Kind of a slow night, he thought, that's for sure. Plenty of time for a leisurely breakfast, a thoughtful perusal of the Oregonian and USA Today. Just need one person with a problem. That's all it takes. Some stranger will stumble in looking for Clean Ed, looking for assistance. They'll look around innocently, then they'll come up to me and say, Are you Ed Danielson? I'm looking for help, and so said you were a very helpful man. What usually followed was a variation on, I think my wife, or husband as the case might be, is cheating on me. I don't have any specific proof, just a lot of vague feelings, little things. You know, after X number of years, a man gets to know his wife, or a wife gets to know her husband, and you pick up on little things. I'm probably wrong. It's probably all my imagination. I just need to be sure. That kind of work paid the rent. The suspicious spouse was almost always right. It was relatively easy money. Of course, no money is really easy. There are always unforeseen complications. However, some money is definitely easier than others. This kind of work usually didn't involve a lot of dangerous complications. Nice, straightforward adultery, the ultimate in job security. Given humanity's frailties, it was money in the bank. The door opened with a ring of the bell, and a man stepped in out of the night. Ed, Allie, and the cook all looked up. The man looked around as if searching for a friend he was supposed to meet before seeing Clean Ed watching him. Clean Ed thought, business professional, suit and tie at 4 a.m? In this neighborhood? Expensive shoes, leather briefcase? My rates just went up. What's in the briefcase, bud? You open that fucker, you be sure to do it real nice and slow. The man walked towards Ed's booth. Mr. Danielson? Ed Danielson? Can I help you? May I sit down? Suit yourself. Free country last time I looked. Would you like some coffee? Coffee? Sure, why not? Allie, my dear, need a coffee over here. Allie came to the booth with a cup and a coffee pot. After she left, Clean Ed said, So now you know my name. Why don't you tell me yours? I'm Roland Marsh, Assistant United States Attorney for this district, the man said as he reached across the table to shake hands, which Ed declined, explaining, It's the cold and flu season. Would you mind showing me some ID? I mean, anyone could wander in here and claim to be anybody. You could be Princess Diana for all I know. The man reached into his coat and brought out a wallet which he flipped open. Ed studied the ID closely before finally saying, Look, it's like I told that one guy down at the IRS. I'm doing my best to get my records together. And you guys can threaten me with an audit all you want. It won't do any good. I'm really trying. The man held up his hand as he put the wallet back in his coat. It has nothing to do with any tax problems you're having. In fact, I might be able to help you with that if you consider helping me with my problem, Ed said. So, you're not a problem, you have a problem. Well, that's different. That's completely different. They're not the same. The way this works is now you give me $100 to listen to your problem, and you tell me who sent you here. And Mr. Marsh, was it? Could you do me a favor? When you reach in your pocket or your briefcase, could you do so slowly, please? I have trust issues. Once more, the man reached into his pocket slowly. This time he put a $100 bill on the table. A Mr. Nolan Nelson sent me to you, and he said specifically to mention his name. He's an associate of a Mr. Beastilia. Suddenly Ed was very interested. Nolan Nelson? Noodles Nelson? You know Noodles Nelson? You know Alfonso the Beastilia? What in the fuck is an assistant U.S. attorney doing palling around with a couple of wise guys like those two, dropping their names like they're golfing buddies? There's a story there that I don't want to know. Well, Mr. Marsh, may I call you Roland? Well, Roland, what seems to be troubling you? Marsh looked down at his hands that cradled the cup of coffee before him. The cook began bricking the grill. The sandy scrape of the grill brick across the grill filled the room. Allie looked into the door of the dessert case and reapplied her lipstick. Again. The man looked up and sighed. Mr. Danielson, this is really very hard. I have suspicions that Here he paused and took a deep breath. I have reason to believe my wife Judy is cheating on me. Marsh struggled to control himself. He looked down and took a deep breath. Fuck, Ed thought to himself. Please don't start crying. This is always very hard, Mr. Marsh. I understand. Take your time, he said. It's probably nothing at all, Mr. Danielson. I'll probably look back on this and laugh. Maybe, Ed thought. Maybe, Mr. Marsh, but probably not. The odds of that happening aren't good. I wouldn't go to Vegas rolling behind those odds. The suspicious spouse is almost always right. The significant other is either hiding some addiction, alcohol, drugs, gambling, or they're fucking someone else. Just about 100% of the time. What aroused your suspicions? Ed asked. Well, Mr. Danielson, it's kind of personal. Mr. Marsh, I've been doing this kind of work for a long time, and I seriously doubt you're going to tell me anything that's going to shock me. I'm a professional. Think of me as a doctor.